So we're just going to take and create a Kaggle notebook on one of these problems and walk through how that would go. So I'm just going to work with one of the beginner competitions. So this spaceship Titanic. If you want to do this on your own at any point, you can be signed into Kaggle with SSO. You can do that with Google or anything like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and notebook. So we'll need to tweak some things because this starts as Python by default. So you go to File, Language, and switch it to R. All right, so this spins us up. Okay, until you get those green lights there, you don't actually have a machine behind it. But this is effectively a customized version of Jupyter Notebooks, so we can do a lot of the same usual tricks there, like a control enter to submit and things like that. There's some nice things here. So this data tab here widget shows us our data sources that come into the problem. If you actually click on one, it'll give you a preview at the bottom. Look across that. You've got a console at the bottom. So you can just run ad hoc R commands as needed. So Kaggle obviously is focused on generally machine learning side into prediction problems, but you can build notebooks for just visualization, exploratory analysis, any kind of just other general data stuff you want to do. So our goal today is not to build a model necessarily or do prediction, but more just think through and talk through as a group how you think about when you approach a brand new problem. So I usually do a couple things here just to kind of get a couple of conveniences out of the way. And so you'll see here that the project folders, Spaceship Titanic. So I'll usually declare like a constant. So that's something I really don't want to use anywhere else. Same thing there. I always forget what's the path that join in R. I always in Python think of os.path.join for non-system specific path joining.
File.path.
Thank you. So we'll do. Yeah, so there we're seeing our files. And so then we can just do. So we'll just use the training file because it has responses as well. So if we want to look at correlation and stuff like that with the output, we can get there. So.
Do you know if there's a reason they don't put the data easily in the current working directory? I can just imagine all the new users who just see the two dots and are like, what the heck is this? It's a very unfriendly way to introduce people to computing.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you're in, for whatever reason, because you don't have to write to an output folder, you just write to the current folder. And then that's available as an export, like a notebook, and you can do a submission or if you write out. So I'm thinking they just do in your home directory, you've got input and output, and they throw you in the output directory. But I agree. The whole taking you up a directory seems odd there. Okay.
I guess you could make links to it said the files are read only, right? So, but presumably you could make a link to the files in the current directory.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like that could be done a little more elegant. So yeah, so here we've loaded up our file. So I've just using the tidyverse one for, obviously I know within our group, there's usually spirited discussions about tidyverse and non-tidyverse, particularly for interactive in a notebook like this. I find it pretty easy to work through. So use.
Is there a description of some objective for this? It's not clear. Like what is? There's a bunch of columns.
Sure.
Like what's the point of this data set?
Yeah. So great question. Probably should have started there. So I'll bring that up in a new tab. So this is effectively meant to be like a sample modernization of the Titanic problem. So one of the starter projects on here is the Titanic data, which is who survived and did not on the Titanic based on various attributes of like where they were at the deck, all of those type of things. So this has modernized it to be that there was a space accident and members of a spaceship are transported away, and you are to predict if passengers were in the group that was transported away or not. That has to be rescued. I think looking through the data, the general reasons, so it's a little bit larger data set, like why they did this versus the Titanic one. And there is still missing data, but in general, there's less of the complicated problems that you see in the Titanic set. For example, in the Titanic set, there's a field for ticket price paid. And for some members that are head of a family, that is the total that they paid for the entire family. And then for other people, that ticket price is broken out per family member. And it's almost impossible to work backwards through that. So it basically makes the field just useless, or you could just turn it into binary of did this person pay above a certain threshold and maybe find some correlation there. Or did anybody with their last name pay amongst a certain threshold? But it gets, I think this is for educational purposes, it takes out some of the complication of cleaning and imputing the data. Not all of it, you're still supposed to impute here. But the predicted column is this last transported true false column. And if I bring back up that data tab that we looked at earlier, I can't recall if that one, no, it does not. But here, if I look at the data in the contest info, you can look at a file and then it will give you a basic description. So we've got passenger ID, that's unique passenger ID, the home planet that they're from. And it's nice, Kaggle will give you these breakdowns of the set. So how many different values there are and the percentages of each for categorical. So cryo sleep, whether the person was in suspended animation, their cabin, which is a level room and then a side, port or starboard at the end. Destination, age, VIP status, whether they paid for a special VIP status, and then amounts spent on room service, food court, or shopping mall. And actually, they're hiding a couple.
Yeah, I want to see how balanced transported is. Is it a balanced predictor or not, right?
So it is a 50-50.
Okay,
and
yeah,
that's obviously another difference with the Titanic as well.
That's very nice.
these two are spending ones, and then the name here. Right. So those previews aren't bad, but it's nice to look at some of these, as example values, either with the head or looking at default, typings in there. I would also say, like, so John asked about transported. The basic technique would be get summary of that column. That gives us that same, tells us that that's pretty balanced. And I'd say another thing that I tend to jump to is like a variable like VIP, if we're curious where that stands. Look at summary of that. Okay, so here, as you would kind of guess with that, the falses far outweigh the trues. You do have some NAs here to impute, so that's kind of interesting. Obviously, because of the dominant side there, most likely you can just make that false and it's probably accurate. But the other thing I think is kind of interesting is to do a table those out. So this tells us, frankly, it's pretty evenly split across those two. So there actually does not seem to be a strong correlation between VIP and transported. Does that make sense to everybody, or any questions on that? So if you were thinking about predicting transported, what other ideas, like what other questions would people have? Does anybody, oh, I thought there was a question there, sorry. Someone was just saying they have to drop. Yeah, the recording, for the person who had that comment, the recording will be up on YouTube. So check the rest of this out later. So anyone have any early theories they want to think about or test out about what might predict transported?
Well, before you do that, I mean, I guess I would look at, before even thinking about methods for imputing the missing values, it would be interesting to see how large the complete data set is without, just removing missing values, right? If it's something to get started with instead of thinking about the complications of imputing those things.
Yep. Good question. So our original data set size, as we see here, is 8,693 records, 14 columns. If we totally coding more in Python lately, so I'm gonna getting it. What's the
NA omit?
Thank you. I'm gonna write so much pandas code today that you guys are gonna have to correct me. So we are, yes,
A couple thousand rows. Yeah.
But still a pretty good sized data set. To your point, I think, if you didn't want to deal with the NAs to get started, that would be fine to do.
Well, I mean, you could deal with them, but it's a lot to think through to figure out what to do with all those things.
So cabin's an interesting one, I would say.
I mean, I think one of the things first thing that I do with this sort of thing is try and correlate as much as possible. So anything that's numeric or logical, just do a big correlation matrix of anything that's not a character.
Yeah, okay. It looks like cabin needs to be split up into multiple variables, right?
Use tidy or separate.
So we can do that back up at the beginning. They got a paste bin on that, or you want to talk me through it? I forget the. So
Alec, are you setting the code for?
Oh yeah, I gotta work on it. Let me- 1 second.
looks like.
You could just use string split, but you know that's me being base R-ish. I don't.
So I think.
Also, you got to plug. Data table has a kind of nice, a real nice feature here. It's called like T string split or something. And what's nice about it is it'll automatically put it back in as columns in your data table.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
That saved me a couple of times. Because you can use string split, but then you got to clean up those nested lists and everything.
Well, yeah, it's not that complicated, but yeah.
Yeah, that's what I did. You'll get some warnings for the empt. Oh, okay, maybe not. Oh yeah. Okay, you just get warnings for the empty ones, but it'll just fill in NA, so that's fine. Sort of.
So I'm actually going to throw that back up at the top. All right, so now we've got that. So now I can delete this one. Delete on that. Sorry. Let me see where the delete cell handle is. Not usually have that problem.
Can you do with that trash can up the top there? Like if you.
Oh yeah, good idea.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
All right. So now we've got that. Let's table that out. So a couple in here, B, C, and B and C are 2-to-1. E, it's not 50-50. Pull it off.
Something I usually like to do is to pipe table into prop.table to get the proportions pretty easily.
Use that like this.
Yeah. There's a margin argument if you only want marginal proportions. So margin equals 1 would give you proportions along the rows. I think that makes sense. And then, yeah, and then margin equals 2 would give you proportions along the column, which I don't necessarily know if we put that here. Or maybe we do.
I think you're. Yeah, that's nice. That makes that jump out.
Mhm.
Yeah, what's interesting there, side doesn't have a huge impact. I feel like in the original Titanic problem, that was a real differentiator.
Mhm.
So another thing that they changed up. All right, so let's say, let's try getting close to a good stopping time. But before we do that, I'd say your suggestion, John, of what kind of can we auto throw in a correlation matrix. That'll be our last goal, and we'll call that as an even point for.
Oh, come on. You got to just run it. You got to run this through a logistic model, right? You have to.
We certainly can. I'll start working on the correlation. You can throw in a paste for your model you want to do. So I think, am I remembering right to do the standard correlation has got to be numeric, or will that auto will that handle Boolean values?
I think it'll handle Boolean.
Yeah, Boolean is 0, 1. So it'll treat it not as a
No.
Boolean value, though, right? It'll treat it as a continuous value.
Right. Yeah.
So looking at this, let's see. What do we want to put in there?
Doesn't the tidyverse have some fancy stuff like selective?
Yeah, I'd be
Usually like selective is
You have to
numeric or
use-
not is dot character. So like
So if you want to start jotting one up with that, that works.
Something like
The reason I was gonna I'm gonna do a mutate above it and get in some of the ones that aren't.
Brian also posted his model too in the chat.
Nice.
I can't remember if I got the variable name right, but that'll at least give you a quick and dirty feel for what's going on with the response without anything fancy, no crossing of variables or anything like that.
So what I was going to do here is, you don't do these on all of them, but we can say for a couple of these, I could do factors to columns, but there's only 3 planets, so it's just create.
I mean, if you wanted to do this automatically, you could just run the correlation matrix on the model matrix, right? Just use model.matrix, and it'll take care of all the factors for you.
That's a good idea.
As well. Yeah, and I think it's in caret or somewhere else, but there's some conversion ones. We've got quite a few more factors, but let's just see how we do here. Shopping does not exist. Shopping. Well, let's just check.
How's the autocomplete in this notebook, Tim?
Oh, works wrong. I would say I was not really paying attention as I was typing, but I've not seen much autocomplete.
You've got missing values in there.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. Do image of that and you'll get a nice little heat map.
You're saying just like that?
Yeah. It's transposed, but you get the idea.
Yeah. Does it not give you with the image labels?
I think try heat map. That's I think in base. Isn't it heat map in base? That'll give you some labels.
I think it is. Yeah. There you go.
So that'll give you the labels and it also sort them for you so you can see. People from Europa like to go to the food court.
Nice.
People from Mars like room service. There you go. Now we're really understanding these people.
Europa, all of them. VR deck, spa. That's where the money's at, apparently. Hey. Cryo sleep.
And they managed to fit in all those activities while being in cryosleep.
Yeah, that's right. They like their spa cryo sleep treatment.
Let's try Brian's model.
Oh, that's surprisingly taking a long time. It's not that big. What's going on there? Should have finished long time ago.
Does it say how much like RAM you have? Like what's it? Oh, is it?
Well, I know the CPU spiked right now.
Yeah.
In terms of what it is, disk RAM, max of 16 gigs on this machine. And
That's a lot of RAM. This is only 8,000 rows. There's 6,000 rows.
Yeah,
We
but
did
the problem is the CPU's like it's at 100%. So why is it hitting the CPU so hard? Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's doing Fisher scoring iteration, but I mean, it's not like, man, this must be a wimpy CPU.
So one note too, you've got GPUs and TPUs available for folks if you're working in like TensorFlow or something where you want GPU acceleration. So you can flip that on. In our case, nothing we're doing would take any advantage of that.
I guarantee if you did this on your Chromebook laptop, it would have finished in 10 seconds or 20 seconds. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, occasionally you just actually, I've had it on Kaggle where you just lose connection to the container on the back end and you simply have to like kick it over. So let's do that here.
How many variables were there? How many columns? There were like 20,
14.
14, and
well,
many of them were fact.
Yeah, that might have been before I split it.
Do model dot matrix on NAOMIT train and just see how large. Assign that to a variable and see how big the matrix is, just out of curiosity. sorry, you need a formula. What is the syntax? It's going to be yes, data equals train. There you go. Try that, and assign that to any omit. Oh no, not the outer any omit. Yeah, sorry. Assign that to something. X or something. Why is that sending?
Oh, I haven't.
To rerun the cells.
Yeah, oh shoot, I should have. Hold on. Well, it's already trying to run it, so we'll see if it craps out again. Yep.
If nothing else, that's kind of interesting. I'm surprised.
Maybe try running it just on the core, the ones you know are numeric or logical, to see it.
Yeah, I was thinking about going back to the. Yeah.
Look at the model matrix first, just to see how big it is. I'm just curious as to why it's taking so long. And it could be. It could also be like, it's not converging, right? Yeah, there you go. Don't run that yet. It's just be interesting to see what the matrix looks like that it's trying to solve.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing. I was just getting that's teed up if we want to do just the correlation variables.
There you go. Now you've got something. So what's the dimension of that? 6,000 rows. Oh, 14,000. That's the problem. 114,000.
Oh, because there's passenger name.
Passenger ID, unique passenger. You don't want that.
There's also passenger name. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of columns you want to omit, right? You don't want those.
So let's do the one we did where we're just doing the ones for correlation. See how it goes.
Well, I mean, you want it to generate those features for you, right? Those contrast variables.
I forgot to export it.
Yeah, so there's some over dispersion problem here, but yeah, they've made it a tricky. Well, hey, again, I'm not sure. So what do we have? Oh, it's a singular model matrix. So one of these columns is a multiple of the others.
Oh, is it because Earth, Europa, and Mars are all included in their?
Oh yeah, is that those are only three options?
Oh, and an intercept, right? Again, the contrasts were built independently. They weren't the intercept wasn't factored out. Yeah, so that's
yeah. Good catch, Alec.
You just throw away the intercept, Tim. Just do in the GLM. You just do +0 in the formula.
You said do. Sorry, you broke up there.
Transported.
+0?
Yeah. I think that'll get rid of the intercept, right?
Yeah.
And then hopefully it won't be singular. Well, it's not singular anymore.
It looks like it is, right? Still has that NA row. Is that what we're talking about?
Oh yeah, that's.
Where'd that Earth false come from? Was that there before? We don't want an Earth false and an Earth true.
Yeah. Check here and see. That could change.
Yeah, this is why we use model matrix or let the model pick our factors for us, right? Generate the contrasts. It's tricky to manually generate contrasts.
Yeah, so we can do. So we had let's home planet. Right? So let's go.
Look at the heat map. It looks like cryo sleep's the answer. Highest correlation.
Is there anything else we want to throw in?
I don't remember what all the variables are. I don't, sorry. You're going to want to get rid of include the intercept this time. It probably is what you want. There you go. Now you've got a model. They're all pretty significant. Look at that. With remarkably similar significance. Yeah. So the least significant variables are age and what is it? VIP true is the least significant one.
We saw that from the early table, right? And it was kind of split. It wasn't really differentiated on VIP status.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. The rest of them are remarkably all extremely significant. It's surprising, right?
Let's see that for later, but I was thinking about
You could
to plot out.
Just plot the model, right? Just do plot. Base R will show you all kinds of interesting plots about the model, right?
Oh yeah, plot the model. You can also plot like pairs. Isn't pairs gonna, if you show, that might not work on some of these character ones, but if you just do pairs, I'll show you a lot of stuff.
It's a good first draft of a model, right? Just to get started. QQ plot is there's some problems in the tails, but
What was the other one? You said pairs.
And then on the original data frame, it's one of those ones that just does all pairwise comparisons of your columns. So you might have to do that on the cores one, but we'll see what they do with the characters.
yeah, I think they have to all be numeric. You could do it on the model matrix, right?
This could be
the feature matrix. Yeah.
Yeah.
See if that comes back.
So there you go, right? I mean, that QQ plot is interesting, right? It's not this binomial family logistic model is not capturing it quite well. And I mean, it pretty much is, but there's some problems especially at one end. And this would tell me, okay, I mean, the outcome is a binary response, so it's a logistic-like model. This GLM is a good first stab, but it's probably going to underperform a tree. You know, the next step would be to try a random forest or a GBM kind of kind of tree, and it might do better. Might have some better output stats than this distributional model. This is saying the hypothesis for the model is close, but not quite right. Oh yeah, there you go. That's a nice plot. Yeah, look at that.
Yeah, no, it's a little too many. But,
Oops. Let's see if we can zoom in.
unfortunately, wasn't very good about scaling the point size, right? Like, so. All right, we only have a little bit of time left. Do we want to try and throw a quick predict of the test data, or what do you want to do in the last few minutes?
You want to score it and see where it did? So we call it model 1. So first I got to load up the test set.
Of course, we left out the dealing with those missing values too.
Yeah, that's my worry too. That was why I was thinking the same thing, Brad. I wasn't sure if we're going to be able to.
Yeah,
whether or not there are missing values in this test set, this could crash and burn if we don't have a strategy for that.
Yeah.
I guess we could see real quick. I mean, we just do the same thing though. See how well we do on the NA omitted. I'm sure there's still plenty.
Yeah, but you can only, so the answers are masked by Kaggle, so you can only score the prediction by submitting it, and you got to submit on all rows.
Right, but that's for the like final test. That the test in here, right? You can see, right?
We could have done our own holdout out of the training files.
Oh, I see.
The old training file. The test file is not labeled.
Interesting. Okay, never mind then.
So you'd have to predict on the train, split the training data up, and yeah. So there's a couple. What are your guys' favorite approaches for imputation? Right? There's. Have you seen the recent? I needed to impute something at work, and there was a great. It was, in my opinion, perhaps the best task view is the one on missing data. It's phenomenally good. And there's this great package, Mistastic, I think it's called. I had used Gary King's Amelia package years and years ago, which is also a good multiple imputation kind of approach especially for linear models like this. But you guys have favorite ways of handling missing values?
Real quick before you answer that, I got to get that to true false. So I'm assuming it's going to be greater than 0 is the true and negatives. But does predict take can I give it like a binomial family to tell it?
Oh, if you give it response equals.
Type equals response.
Oh, type equals response. Yeah. In quotes. Then it'll give you the probability, and then you can slice on greater than 50% or whatever.
Yeah. All right. Then create the order arguments with right CSV.
The objects first. The objects first and the file name second. Does that have to be in? Oh, the defaults are probably fine.
And then what is it? Calls. Oh, if I'm doing it wrong, but because we only want to write passenger ID and transport it.
Oh, okay.
So that's not it.
Well, I don't think it's going to subset it, right?
So you could do that. I might once again be thinking of Python. Call names.
I mean, you'd have to subset the test argument, right? The table.
Okay.
Yeah. Instead of trying to do it at the right CSV level, you should just you could do select and then pipe it to right CSV.
Now, what you actually do is
What's it doing, Tim? Is it's
so it generates like a outputted version of the notebook, and then it'll also run, and we'll see. So we'll see a like non-interactive version of the notebook, like knitted together effectively, and then you'll also see a tab where it says the output, and then we can say we want to go ahead and submit that output for scoring, like as a submission. And this is a practice problem, so it's just open. You can submit anytime. There's no deadline. There's no whatever. Like usually with these, like the Titanic one, people just like Google the actual file results and then submit it just to be at the top of the leaderboard because they, of course, some people want to watch the world burn, you know. Oh, so successful. So then I click on this, it'll take me to the notebook. So yeah, now you see it, but I can't. It's got all our output. And then yeah, so in here I can click submission.csv. This is our submission. We have some NAs on predictions. That's not going to go well for us. Go ahead. Describe it. I can't spell. So we'll see. I threw in some real quick ones. I think these were
Zero, huh?
maybe.
That's not
You'd think they would be nice enough to say like, you know, to be determined.
So I think simple submission transport is true and false. Oh, wait a minute.
Oh,
I think
we have to turn it back into the character values.
yeah. But I thought I'd done that. It must have when it serialized it. I think it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it did undo it. You did the code to
Yeah. So I think that if we look at their, we'll fix this real quick. definitely gonna break this into 2 YouTube videos. As opposed to an hour long. So if we look at the sample submission, yeah, and it's camel cased. So we'll just make the output string and that'll fix it.
But it saved it as the probabilities, right? Are you doing a thresholding or something on the output of the?
So I done this to convert it to a Boolean.
Oh, but you didn't write it, assign it back to test, the mutate step.
Oh, good point. So then the question is,
I would say if we have to submit Python style logical columns, I feel like that's that's really sending a message.
I think also we need the outcome variable is a character, not a logical. We just need to change true to
yeah,
capital T or lower RUE.
But no, but that's the thing. It's like, does it really have to be Python formatted? Are they they're gonna know if you're submitting an R?
Well, I don't know. I'm just guessing they want whatever the
I'd say
sample
that's-
submission looks like.
That's not cool if our users have to do an if else statement and convert it to T with the capital T true and capital F false. That's
we'll
cumbersome.
find out. This is the quick after party. We're gonna try with our logical, see if we get there, and if we don't, we'll do the character, and then we'll wrap. So while we're waiting on this, thoughts on on the format of the interactive collaborative? Like, do we like this as a Wednesday meeting, or is this a better Saturday meeting, or we don't want to do it at all?
So the thing I'll say is,
Sorry, John. Yeah, I mean, I've never really seen anyone mess with Kaggle before or use IPython or Jupyter. So kind of interesting for me to see that.
I like it. I do think having more time would benefit. So Saturday could be good.
yeah, or dedicate the whole thing because we had the first part, right? We dedicated the whole meetup to it.
Mm-hmm.
What I would say is that I think a lot of people would get a lot out of this would be newer people that were, if we could get some folks that were newer to R, see Tim try things and fix typos and stuff. That can be really useful, especially to new coders, right?
Did we still get? We're still 0.0.
All right, then you got to if else it to true.
Yeah.
And there we. All right.
There you go. Or you can load reticulate. You can reload reticulate and then export it with pandas. There you go. And really.
R lets me do an NY or a function if else, right? I'd like to get Python with that.
Yeah. You could do
Yeah,
that.
that's it. Yeah.
So I'll just double check it. Syntax messed that up. Yeah, it might be somebody else's turn to drive next time. I will say it's super stressful, like coding, just because you're trying to look through the
understandable.
conversation to end code. Both of you guys are better R programmers anyways, but
No, I think you did a good job. And honestly,
Yeah.
this reminds me how rusty my tidyverse is. I haven't done this in a while.
I forgot the pairs. That takes forever. Just kill that cell so I don't find it in the future. Okay, we got a character, true, false.
All right.
Things are going to change. I can feel it.
Did it get run? Did that cell get run? It has a play next to it. That because you selected it, or
Yeah, no, I hit the run all.
okay.
It wanted me to play because it won't matter when it does this creation of one.
I see.
it runs the entire notebook and knits it all and all that, or whatever it's using for the. It's kind of cool. I don't know if you noticed one thing I'll point out. Yeah, so while we're letting that run, it saves all the plots from this.
Oh,
So that was kind of cool.
That's nice.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time towards the model, working over to the doing the modeling part, but even just the I think doing this and working through how we impute it, to Brian's point of the question, and how do people think about that and get comparative views like that. We could probably do an entire session on just imputing techniques and exploring success.
You could do an entire semester course on imputing.
Fair enough. I don't know if you noticed over there, there's a link. Any of these you can download. Hey, we got a model score.
There you go.
And this is a score from on 0 to 1 or something, or what? 1 is perfect prediction, I guess. Or
So we can jump to leaderboard position. So I've done a earlier one that was better, but this is, what is our metric here? Usually the over you gives you a nice evaluation. So that is simply an accuracy.
percentage of correct. Yeah. So well, it's not
straight up accurate. So we got a D.
It's not an F.